First of all, about Gaza. You asked about Gaza turning into Somalia. It's very simple. If Hamas will be really crushed, which is not the case until now, politically for sure not. Military, yes, but that's very temporary. Politically, it's not crushed at all. But let's say it will be crushed. Who is going to replace Hamas? Who is going to govern Gaza? There is no one. Israel is even not ready that the PA will take over, but the PA, I'm not sure, is capable of governing Gaza. PA is not such a strong and efficient body right now. It also has its own problems, big, huge problems of leadership, of corruption, of many things. So if there will be no leadership, no government, it will turn into anarchy. And we see already the first signs. All kinds of families will take over. There will not be any authority in Gaza. And then it will turn into an anarchy, like Somalia, with a lot of crime, with, by the way, having no partner to deal even about daily life. Humanitarian aid, to whom will you supply it if there is no government and no governor and nothing? Who is going to take the supply? Who is going to distribute? So this danger is very acute, very, very close. As long as Hamas is there, there is at least someone to govern Gaza. It's not my cup of tea, Hamas, by all means not. But do we have an alternative? Do the Palestinians have an alternative? I wish they have. Anyone will be better for the Palestinians than Hamas. But I don't see no one around. I don't see Israel enabling this. Now, opening up now the focus over an overall solution, I'm very clear about it. I'm very much in favor of the two-state solution. Two peoples are struggling over one piece of land. You have to share the land. Two peoples are dreaming about self-determination. The Jews deserve it, the Palestinians deserve it equally. The only solution is having two states, one Jewish state, one Palestinian state. The only problem is that Israel did anything possible to sabotage it and succeeded. We are facing today over 700,000 Jewish settlers in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. They are the most powerful political group in Israel. They are, part of them, very violent people. There is no one who will ever be able to evacuate them from the West Bank. Without their evacuation, there is no viable Palestinian state. There is a Bantustan, maybe, in a good case, but not more than this. So after many years of supporting the two-state solution, I realized that it's just not achievable. Why to continue to support something which will never be achievable anymore? The train left the station, finished. The problem is that the whole world is still sticking to it, knowing that it will never happen. And continuing to speak about it, including your country and the United States and the EU and the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli left and the UN, you name it. Very nice. But not achieved. What will you do with 700,000 settlers? They will not go anywhere and you cannot evacuate them by force. There's no one to do so. So this brings me to the other alternative, the only other alternative. We are living in a one state ever since the year of 1967. Between the river and the sea, between the Jordan and the Mediterranean, there are today around 7.5 million Palestinians, 7.5 million Jews. Part of them are living under a democracy, mainly the Jews. Part of them are living under one of the most brutal tyrannies in the world, the Israeli military occupation. The challenge is only to change the regime. There is a one state. You just have to turn it into a democracy for everybody. One person, one vote. What is more just than this? Yes, it will not be a Jewish state. It will also not be a Palestinian state. It will be a democracy. And for me, living in democracy is more important than being a Jewish state or Palestinian state. The two communities can define themselves without calling themselves a Jewish state or a Palestinian state. There is no other choice. I mean, we are facing now two alternatives, either apartheid forever or democracy. I don't see a third way.
Well, I've been to, Hamas celebrations or Hamas events in Gaza City, we should say. The crowds are massive there. They have a large popular base. And I've spent time with people who are sort of part of the middle class intelligentsia in Gaza, who don't support Hamas on a cultural or religious basis, find them to be oppressive, don't support any faction, but they support the Al-Qassam brigades, which is the armed wing of Hamas. And there's a division between the leadership of Hamas and the Al-Qassam brigades. You'll see Hamas leaders out there shaking hands or, putting on a show with florid rhetoric, giant events, and they'll be surrounded by the fighters. But you rarely see the leadership of the Al-Qassam brigades, if ever. It's sort of a semi-secret organization like the IRA. Mohammed Deif is the leader. Technically, he's the leader of the Al-Qassam brigades. There's only one photograph of him. Most of his family has been killed in Israeli assassinations. I wouldn't say I was witness to one assassination attempt. I was a neighborhood away when Israel dropped a 2,000-pound bomb on an apartment to kill him, and he survived. They killed his wife and kid. And it's this, and he's probably somewhat malformed or very wounded from all the attacks that he suffered. He's probably in a tunnel. So it's this idea that he suffers with the people and faces the same circumstances that they do. He's not hanging out in Doha in conference halls like much of Hamas's exiled leadership is. And so the people identify with him. He's sort of a folk hero. And the Al-Qassam brigades come from the people. They are a popular fighting force that's supplemented also by Palestinian Islamic Jihad, but also by the PFLP, which is traditionally the left of Palestinian society. In Gaza, it's a little different. Right now, they're militarily being supported by Iran. There's no Soviet Union to support them. But, it's not just Hamas who's taking the fight to Israel at this point. So the point is they have the respect. They have the respect of society, which, like any other society under occupation, wants to fight for their liberation. Hamas also has, its zakat committees, its social aid committees, which have won a lot of goodwill. They've brought people aid. They've been more efficient than the Palestinian Authority as a municipal authority. They've been less corrupt over the years, although as they rule, they become more and more like, a typical government. And, I walked around Gaza City with, some youth, and you would see these guys with short beards and suits on coming out of hotels, and they all have the same look about them. They look like Muslim Brotherhood operatives. And you could see the contempt that the youth would have for them, that these guys are becoming very increasingly insular. They're bringing in money from Qatar to build fancy mosques while the people were suffering. So there was that. But at this point, since October 7th, everything's been destroyed. And Hamas's message that we suffer with the people is resonating, that we come from the people. And I think they've been greatly underestimated by the West, which thinks that they can be removed somehow, or that Palestine can be liberated from Hamas. It's not only delusional, it really speaks to the ignorance, the complete ignorance of the national security and foreign policy elite in the West. that they're actually backing up a regime change campaign against Gaza, which is leading to this humanitarian crisis because they will not allow Hamas police or municipal authorities to operate in the open to protect the aid shipments and to allow the aid to be distributed to the people. They're backing a campaign of the complete political extermination of everyone affiliated with Hamas, which is leading to genocide. So Hamas has to be recognized as a legitimate governing authority if there ever is going to be a Palestinian state, whether you believe in a two-state solution or a one-state solution. The West refuses to do it. I think another aspect here also is Islam and religion, that after the 1967 war, which was so humiliating and was particularly humiliating for Gamal Abdel Nasser, who failed to see that the attack was coming, but also for Hafez al-Assad, the two lions of Arab nationalism. A lot of people just began turning to the mosque and to Islamism. And then within Palestinian society, as Israeli repression grew harsher during the occupation, and then particularly during the first Intifada, which was led by secular organizations, which also gave birth to Hamas. A lot of people also turned to the mosque for protection, to get through the psychological terror that was being imposed on them day after day. And I know women from the West Bank who said that they put on the hijab, they covered their heads just because it made them feel safer as they were constantly being tear gassed and facing violence all the time. And so that has to be recognized as well. There's really nothing that can replace Hamas in Palestinian society unless the West wants to continue supporting nihilistic genocide and allow everyone to starve in a despotic hellhole, in which case you will start to see an ISIS-like group start to come to the fore.
I don't think the world should recognize any Palestinian political movement. The world, I think, is under an obligation to confirm that the question of Palestinian leadership is a question for Palestinians to resolve. It's for the Palestinians, not for the Israelis or the Europeans or the Americans or anyone else to decide who leads the Palestinian people. That is a decision to be made by Palestinians. And just as foreign powers, or let's say foreign states in the United States don't recognize the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or the Green Party or whatever, they recognize the government of the United States. I think the same principle applies here. Don't interfere with the right of the Palestinians to choose their own leadership, as you have consistently done with in the past. Recognize, don't seek to impose leaders on the Palestinians, and recognize those leaders which are organically generated by the Palestinians themselves through their own procedures. So that would be my response to that point.
And if it is Hamas, then it is Hamas.
Well, I think if it is Hamas, I think that would be a real problem and that assessment has nothing to do with what is what you hear often in the West about this. It's my own view that the current situation in which the Palestinian people find themselves cannot afford or sustain the hegemony of any one political movement to the exclusion of others. Mm-hmm. This gets back to what I was saying earlier. I think the only successful way forward for the Palestinian people is to have some kind of interim leadership in which all primary Palestinian forces are represented and that they collectively agree on the basis of consensus on the way forward, somewhat similar to the way the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, operated in the 1970s and 1980s. Yes, you may have had a dominant movement, Fatah, but that had, of course, different wings in it. But all the other main organizations, Popular Front, Democratic Front, and others, were represented within the PLO and its leadership organs, participated in its decision making, and so on. And we need to find a similar formula to exit from the crisis that the Palestinian political system currently finds itself in. And only when you have that kind of genuinely representative Palestinian leadership, can you then begin to address discussions of what are our strategic objectives? Is it one state? Is it two states? Is it the international consensus? Is it to overturn the international consensus? What tactics will we use? Will it be a war of attrition? Will it be an effort to mobilize the Arab military power? Will it be popular demonstrations? Will it be BDS or whatever? Will it be different tactics in different arenas at different times? Only under such circumstances can the right decisions be made, in my view.
Can I
Hi,
leave?
my name is Ayushman. I, along with Jyotisman, have started this platform. In the last 2 years, we have tried to build content for the left and progressive forces. We have interviewed economists, historians, political commentators, and activists so far. If you have liked our content so far and want us to build an archive for the left, I have two requests for you. Please do consider donating for the cause. Link is in the description below. Also, if you are not able to do so, don't feel sad. You can always like our videos and share our videos to your comrades. Finally, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.